Hey everybody, I want to talk about salmon poisoning today because it's a very serious issue here in the Pacific Northwest. You might be wondering, why are you talking about it when it's snowing out? But it's January here in outside of Portland. And that means that there are dead fish around, not just because fish die all year round, right? And they go somewhere, but because the spawning season is over. It was over in the fall. And yes, there are still rotting, decomposing bodies of salmon and trout all over the place. I do my best to avoid it, but as you know, if you've read the handbook and if you've been my client for a while, I tell everybody, if we are near a river or a lake, know that it's a possibility your dog could get salmon poisoning, even if I didn't see them eat something. Apparently, dogs can even just step in some decomposing flesh that you can't identify as flesh. They can step in it and then lick their paw and they can get it that way. Because what they're getting, even though it sounds like it's a toxin, it's actually a parasite that the dogs get. There are, I think, 2 types. One of them is like 99% of the cases. And they get this parasite, so what my point is that it's really small. They ingest it and then it becomes a problem days later. So we're talking symptoms could develop 4, 5, 6 days later, even a week later. And if your dog is acting lethargic, they have diarrhea, they're vomiting, they have a high temperature, and some of the other symptoms that I recommend you read on a veterinary website, you know, they could be getting really sick. And here's the thing that's so important about this. With salmon poisoning, it can kill dogs. It does kill dogs every year in the Pacific Northwest. And if you wait too long, if there are symptoms, but you know, you ignore them, or you're like, oh, I'm sure she's okay. You know, she's just having an off day. You know, if they're having symptoms and they've been to these locations around water or you've seen them eat weird stuff or they smell fishy, get them in ASAP, because having them take this antibiotic that is the treatment for it in the early stages is not a problem. It's not expensive, it's easy, you just give them the antibiotic and they have no problem whatsoever. But if you wait and they are sick or they've had this going on for about 2 weeks, they can die. It's very serious. So get them in as soon as you notice symptoms, if there's a combination of the 2 things, the symptoms plus that they've been in those areas. Apparently, once a dog has had salmon poisoning one time, they can't get it again, but everything about salmon poisoning is on the move as far as our knowledge of it, because there's so much that veterinarians don't know. There's so much that any other type of scientist doing the research on this doesn't know. The information on it changes every season. We think we know more about it, but then the next season that could change. So it's an evolving understanding. But yeah, apparently if they get it once, they can't get it again. That's the latest I heard. And let's see if there's anything else about it. Here's something that I think is super important, actually. So in areas where there are poisonous like vipers, rattlesnakes, whatnot, and dogs can accidentally get into their areas or get bitten, people are now training those dogs to be afraid of snakes. And so if they hear a rattle, they're training them, pairing the stimuli with either a positive response that the dog is supposed to have to either run to the parent, or they'll pair it with something negative like a vibration, an e-collar stimulation, so that they know anytime they hear that sound, or if they smell that smell, or they see an animal that looks like that, it's a bad thing. They should get away from it right away. If you pair the 2, you know, whatever your philosophy on negative response stuff is, I mean, this could save your dog's life, no doubt, if you live in a place like that or here. And you train them like, don't touch that thing. You know, you hear that noise, you smell that smell, you want to eat that thing, don't. Don't do it. There will be a negative consequence if you attempt to. And, you know, I think that's something, I've never heard of anyone doing this, but I'm starting to think we should be doing that with our dogs in the Pacific Northwest with salmon, because if your dog is a scavenger, they're gonna come, and they're an adventure dog, they're gonna come across it sooner or later. It's gonna happen, especially if your dog is going out on adventures with me for many years and they're scavengers. That's a bad combination. We are in places where there's all kinds of things. We're in the wilderness, you know, we're in the wilds. So train your dog to not scavenge. That is the best thing I can tell you to do, other than take the symptoms seriously. But if you train your dog to not be a scavenger, we won't be having this conversation. You won't be dealing with this threat. So if you can teach them, I don't care what you find out there, I don't care how delicious you think it's going to be, you cannot eat that. That's not allowed. That's really your best defense. So I hope some of that information helps. I will link to one of the educational websites on this topic, but considering that links are always changing and information is always changing, just Google and go to a reputable nationwide veterinary resource. All right, thanks for watching.